You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
PackersTalk.com.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Miles Teddick, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans, just love talking about the Pack. We're not getting into all the national sports media nonsense. We're sticking to real football, breaking down the games during the season, sticking to the Pack every week, breaking down games during the season, sorting through all the drama, draft, and dreams of the offseason. If y'all want to support the podcast, please spike that like button for us. And most importantly, jump on over to YouTube, type in Packers Talk Network. Network's important. It'll get you where you're going. And hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell next to it. All of it makes a difference. Great deal of difference to us. And we appreciate you guys. Love our subscribers. Love hanging out with you guys every week, talking Pack, just kind of getting into it now that we're in the offseason. We're going to cover some fun draft stuff, of course. That's going to be probably the feature that we're going to really spend the most time on over the next couple months. But right now, we've at least got one real football game to react to. We got a little bit of Super Bowl reactions here. Got a little bit of a Gute press conference to react to. That might have more of a reaction than even the Super Bowl. And another new coach. Of course, it's time to get some team building. So a lot to cover. But first, always got to take care of business. We are once again sponsored by Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as Bucks tickets, Brewers tickets, coming up, Summerfest tickets, any other tickets you can think of. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. Remember, support all them local businesses, Wisconsin and otherwise. Tim, good evening, sir. How you doing up there? You staying warm?
No, I'm not. But, winter's only got a couple more months to go up here in the Northeast. So you never, got to look on the bright side.
Hey, man, hang in there. Hang in there. Every day that you get through is another day you don't have to get through.
That's true. And now we got to get through a whole offseason of football because there's no more games to talk about.
I know.
It sucks. Packers been done for too long now. And now there's not even any other teams to watch. Super Bowl's over and here we go. I mean, free agency's fun, the draft's fun, but I like to watch actual football. We don't get that now for a while.
Yeah. I mean, you can go back and watch some replays of games you didn't catch. There's some time for that now. That's probably what I'll do. I'll start getting a little bit desperate and catch some of the UFL or USFL, whatever it is this year. XFL, I think, is trying to come back in at, I don't know, the alternate FL, maybe just blanket coverage. Every now and then catch a CFL game. I think, isn't that in season? Something like that?
I have no idea.
Might be like
I'm not up on my CFL.
It's out there. I know it's like it's definitely not competing with the NFL. We could find some real football here and there. But we're doing the team building thing now. And we get to have some fun with that. It's not all it's all not all negative, not all boring, not all dreadful. We got the scouting combine coming up here soon. We got the draft. It seems like just always. It seems so far away until it's not, and then it's just right in your face. Dang, I got here quick. So yeah, man, we're gonna make it through. And you Packers fans, you're gonna stick with us, and we're gonna make it through this thing together because there's always something new to talk about. Every week, there's something else going on. This week, we got our Super Bowl reactions. So what do you think, man? I mean, I think a lot of fans will use the Super Bowl maybe to compare to their team. Oh, we could have won that game, or man, what's it going to take to have a defensive line like that? Or, we could have drafted that guy. There's all sorts of the hindsight 2020. Like, do you have any reactions like that? Or is it just kind of like it was a football game?
Yeah. I mean, I guess both. I think it shows that if you have a pass rush, you have a defensive line that can get to the quarterback, you can win. And we saw that last year at the Eagles. That was the main reason why they beat Mahomes and took down that dynasty, was because they had a pass rush. Yeah. And you're seeing it this year. And you go back over time, teams with great pass rushes, they get far. And that's why Seattle won that game. Yeah, I mean, you can talk about New England's offensive line struggling. Drake May struggled, but that defense just overwhelmed them, right? And then that was a great defensive performance for a really good defense. So yeah, I mean, if you got a pass rush like the Seahawks or like the Eagles from last year, or several other teams over the years, you can get far. So that's something that's never going to stop. That's always one of those things. If you have a quarterback, you can get far. If you have a great pass rush, you can get far. So that's the name of the game. So it just reinforced it. I don't think it told us anything new that we didn't already know. So yeah, I mean, like the Packers, we know they have one pass rusher, but now it's building around Micah Parsons and getting Devontae White to be healthy, stay healthy, and can they get more out of Lucas Van Ness? Can they get more out of the young guys like Sorrell and Oliver, and then whoever they're going to bring in this offseason? But make sure you got that pass rush, because if you do, it don't matter how good that offense or that quarterback is on the other side. Drake May was runner-up for MVP. You can get to him, and you can fluster him and win a Super Bowl doing it. So yeah, it just proved that fact that you need a great pass rush.
Well, and I would draw back to another great Seahawks defense. That Seahawks defense in 2023, let's not forget, that Peyton Manning-led Broncos offense was a record-setting offense. They were on fire. I think that was the year that he had the most passing touchdowns. The record for that was like 55 or something like that. That offense was as good as you can ask for. They were on absolute fire. And that Seahawks defense made them look like the JV squad, man. Like that. And it was from snap number one. It was never possible. Like the game was never within reach for the Broncos. That defensive performance was like, it is burned in my mind. And I'm sure if I was alive for the 85 Bears, I'd probably have something to say about them. But that defense was just burned in my mind. It'll always be great. And that it's that proof. It's like you had one of the best offenses in history come up against just a bad to the bone defense, man, and it was no contest. So it's like when you get great versus great, what happens? Sometimes it's really close, it's really neck and neck, just great struggle. And then other times, man, one of them crumbles like dust. And so I think, Packers fans are probably thirsty for a defense like that. I think we probably should be.
Yeah.
I don't know how close we are to that. Just
it's been a long time since we had a defense like that, and I'm not even saying they got to be the number one defense, all-time defense. Like we've seen over the years from the Ravens defense, the Broncos defense that won at the end of Manning's career, carried him to the Super Bowl. Like they don't need to be that. But you got to be real good, and you got to have that pass rush. You got to be able to wreck a game. And when you go up against really good quarterbacks, really good offenses, you got to be able to get to the quarterback. And that can slow any quarterback down as a pass rush that's on him and in his face all night. And I know Drake may have been struggling in the playoffs, but he consistently saw four of the best defenses in the league: Chargers, Texans, Broncos, and Seahawks. And he didn't play well in any of those games. He took a lot of sacks, a lot of turnovers, but they were able to find ways to win in the AFC just because the offenses on the other side weren't very good. They caught up with them in the Super Bowl. Not that Seattle was great, but they had a running game, and then as that game went on, they started finding more answers in the passing game. But they just overwhelmed that New England offensive line that had two rookies starting at left tackle, left guard. Couldn't block anybody, and then Drake May, even when he had a little bit of time, or there were some throws for him to make, he was so fast and getting the ball out. It was just the timing was off. He was sped up so much in that game, and you just see the effect the pass rush can have. And you talk about what the Seahawks did to Peyton Manning in their Super Bowl. Go back to the two Super Bowls Tom Brady lost. People how great Tom Brady is, but the two he lost to the Giants, he lost because they had a pass rush. Patrick Mahomes lost last year to the Eagles because they had a pass rush. He lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the year the Packers should have been in the Super Bowl because Tampa Bay rushed them. They destroyed the offensive line.
Rush.
Yeah. So if you can do that, that's the key. You got to be able to get to the quarterback and affect the quarterback. And the Seahawks did it consistently all year, and then obviously we saw it. We saw it in the Super Bowl. That was the difference.
Well, and I see the chatter in the chat about Schneider, and I'll try to get to some of those comments,
Yeah,
guys.
because I saw one of those too, and it's just not accurate. So
Well, and look, I'd love to see Schneider come back to Green Bay. That'd be awesome. But Gute's a young man, right? This is not a Ted Thompson situation, and it's not that he's going to be in Green Bay forever, but
no,
you're not getting Schneider back next year. You know what I mean? Like, you're stuck with Gute for a while, and you either got to root for him to not succeed, because that's what it's going to take, or you root for him to succeed, and then he's going to be here as long as he wants. And I wouldn't rule out the idea that maybe one day Schneider gets to retire as his last gig in being in Green Bay, like for the second half of his career or something, when Gute decides he's done, or whatever the course may be. Things happen. But it's just, that's a far out thing. That's not a thing that, that's not going to happen this year. That's not going to happen next year. And that's not going to happen under any kind of enjoyable circumstances.
You don't just go and hire another team's GM because they want to, like, it doesn't work that way. And I see people in the comments like he's got in his contract. There was apparently a clause in John Schneider's contract years ago that like he could leave to go back to Green Bay. That was when Pete Carroll was there.
Yeah,
that was taken out of his contract. That's old news. That is not current.
I think Ted
was still the GM in Green Bay, and it got taken out at one point, probably around when they went to the Super Bowl and won it, and he was getting contract extensions. They redid it. It's not in his contract. He cannot just say, "I'm done in Seattle. I'm going back to Green Bay to be the GM." No, that's not in his contract anymore. That's old news. So no. And besides that, like, do you really think Seattle's going to just say, "Yeah, go ahead back to Green"? Like, why would they let him leave? Like, it doesn't.
Like, there's a lot that has to happen for something like. I mean, like, Seattle's got to get bad enough for him to not want to be there, and Green Bay has to be bad. Like, there's got to be a lot of bad that happens. So that's where I'm just like, if that happens one day under not horrible circumstances, that's great. Man, it's a lot that has to happen for something like that to happen. So, yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things. Chris, our brother over there, you might be right, man. I don't know. But the point being, even if it is in his contract, it's just not something that anybody's going to do without some, like, bad things happening in both Seattle and in Green Bay. Right? Because, again, like, he's not going to be out there in Seattle winning Super Bowls going, you know what, I think I'm done here. I'm going to go walk somewhere. He's going to keep winning Super Bowls out there, man. And same thing with Gute. If things, like, back to where we were, like, if things go the way that he's trying to build them to, he's going to win a Super Bowl. And there might be people that doubt that. It's totally fine. If injuries don't happen, there's a strong argument that they're in the Super Bowl. And because of Micah Parsons, right? It's exactly what we're talking about, is your game wrecker. Like, listen, man, if somehow you end up Green Bay and Seattle, in Seattle in the NFC Championship game, I'm sorry, but a healthy Micah Parsons is going to have a bad day ready for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's not the athlete that can get away with that. So, like, I think that there's a lot to be said for what Gute has built here. I know the criticisms. We don't have to get all into that. He missed here, he missed there. It is what it is. He's built a hell of a team. He built a team that had all of us in the first half of last season going Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. He had Rasheed Walker running his mouth, which if you're a little stitious, we can go back to that as being what happened. But point being, like, I think we're on the verge of something here. Like, watching this Super Bowl, to me, it's not whether the Packers could have beat the Patriots. I think somebody on Twitter, I think, said that half the NFC could have beat the Patriots in that game, and they might be right. I mean, even Will Campbell was really bad, man. He was taking steps forward on pass blocks.
Like, he had a rough game.
Good, man. That's a bad day.
Yeah, bad rookie.
But it's more about, like, can you beat Seattle in Seattle to get to that game? That's where I think your biggest question mark is. That was a hell of a Seattle team, man. Like, it would have been a tough game. But if you're healthy, if you have the team that Gute built, you're in that. You're definitely in that conversation. You're not. It's not like, oh, no way, man. Like, what do you mean? Absolutely, for sure. You're like, you might be favored in that game. It's tough to play in Seattle, so maybe you're not favored in that game. But absolutely, you have a very good shot to win it. So you got to let things play out in 2026 come up. We got to see what Micah Parsons can do with a full offseason with this team. He's got a new defensive coordinator now. How's Gannon going to use him? There's a lot of questions that come out of that. But when it comes to talent that Gute has built here, man, like he's not far. We're not sitting here talking about like you need a bunch of monumental pieces to get to the Super Bowl. Like you're real close right now if you're healthy.
Yeah, you can be, and that's the key. I mean, a healthy Packers roster, it's a different story. Like I don't know if they go and beat Seattle, but they certainly they would have beaten the Bears. They wouldn't have even been playing the Bears in that situation with a healthy roster because they would have won the division and been playing as a 2 seed, and so many things would have been different. But a healthy Packers roster, it measures up pretty damn well with the Seahawks roster. And I'm not saying it's better that they're going to beat the Seahawks or anything like that, but it's just they're able to match up and be one of those teams that's capable of going deep in the playoffs with a healthy roster. Are there other issues with the team? Absolutely, 100%, and it's not a guarantee of anything. But they got to get to that point where they can actually have their guys on the field. We can see what they are capable of, and we never really got to see that this year. And once they got close to it, then their key players started falling. By the end of the year, it was too much. Now they still should have won the Bears game, and we've been through that a bunch. And that was a collapse that should have never happened. I don't care who's on the field and who's not. And that's the bigger issue, more than just injuries that are impacting this team. So, 2026 is going to be interesting. But seeing what the Seahawks did, they're really good. Can they be one of those teams that's in it every year? Yeah, it's possible, but who knows? But I didn't look at that game last night and be like, wow, we have no chance. We're never going to beat the Seahawks. Like, it was just one of those games. Like, it was their year. They were the most consistent team all year. They were an incredibly healthy team all year, and they deserved to win. And they clearly dominated the Patriots and won the Super Bowl. And credit to them. But I didn't look at it as like, wow, how are the Packers going to figure out a way to overcome the Seahawks? Like, no, the Packers have their issues and they have things that need to be fixed, but I don't think they're far off of where the Seahawks are roster-wise and being able to go head-to-head with them. And just to clear something up, because it was already brought up about John Schneider's contract, and Chris, I see your comments. I'm not trying to make you sound stupid. You're not stupid. He did have it in his contract. It was removed in 2016 when he signed a contract extension. John Schneider said that himself. 2018, when the Packers GM job opened up, the Packers tried to interview him, asked for permission. The Seahawks declined it because they didn't have to give him permission because it wasn't in his contract at that time. So it was in his contract, but it hasn't been in there for a while now, just to clear that up. Maybe someday he'll be back in the Packers far down the road, but it's just not something that would be easily done right now.
Well, yeah, and I think, again, to my point, and Chris, this is where, supporting mediocrity. It's not true. Even if it is in his contract, for both sides to want that to happen, bad things have to happen. Like John Schneider's not just leaving Seattle next year, and neither is Gute. Gute's not just leaving Green Bay next year. Like, you have to have some bad things happen for both of them to want to leave their position, or be forced to leave their position. So that's where it's like, hopefully one day Schneider could come back to Green Bay. That'd be cool. I hope for a lot of those things. It would have been cool if J.J. Watt could have come back, but apparently that's not what the Packers wanted. So that was unfortunate. Missed opportunity, in my opinion, especially PR move maybe. Little jersey sales of the JJ 99 in the green and gold would have been pretty cool.
I don't think,
but that's not how they operate. It's not how they operate. So fair enough. But yeah, all right. So some of the takeaways from Gute's press conference, because some of them were rather, I just want to use a good word here. I don't know, Tim. I'm going to say something I shouldn't. Dissatisfying?
I guess. All right. So I know a lot of people, or some people, are upset about his press conference. I watched it. I have no idea what were your expectations for people? And I'm not saying you. I'm just saying for people that are upset. He's not going to come out there and say, yeah, we're getting rid of this guy. We're going to go sign this guy. We're going to go get 3 cornerbacks. He's not going to do that. He's not going to throw his own players under the bus. Rashan Gary, we'll get to Rashan Gary. Rashan Gary's not going to be on the team next year. I would be shocked, along with everyone else. But he's not going to come out now and be like, yeah, we're going to cut him. It doesn't do him any good to do that right now. It doesn't do him any good to come out and say, we need cornerbacks. Because that's sending a signal to every other team in the league, like, oh, draft time, we know what the Packers are doing. Free agency time, we know what the Packers are doing.
Of course.
Like, strategically, he's not going to do that. He's not going to throw Nixon and Valentine under the bus and say, yeah, they had bad years. They did. They know that. But Valentine is on a rookie contract. They need cheap contracts because they're up against the cap. Valentine's going to be on the team next year, at least in the training camp. Keyshawn Nixon is on a cheap contract for a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's at least – that one may be still up in the air. Maybe they end up cutting him. But right now it wouldn't do them any good to do that. So he's not going to throw his own guys under the bus. And he's not going to give away what he wants to do in the offseason. So for me, that whole press conference was just him trying to not say anything to give us clues about what he's doing. The biggest news that he gave was Zach Tom will be ready to start the season next year, or should be ready to start. Like, it's not, his injury is not going to go into 2026 season. That to me is
good. And he said that pretty unequivocally.
He said it's not going to affect 2026.
Yeah.
Awesome. I don't expect him to do anything until training camp, which is fine. Rehab, get healthy. Other than that, everything else was just a non-answer. And I know it's not what people want to hear. They want him to come out and like throw everyone under the bus and we suck and this player's getting caught. And like, he's not going to do that. Any GM that's competent is not going to do that kind of stuff. He's not going to like reveal what he wants to do. Now, some of the things, like the special teams comments, I was like, what are you seeing?
There were ways to just not say what he said, you know? That's where it's like, dang, man.
But even with special teams, he kind of tells you like what they value with special teams. Like, they have somewhat improved on special teams from a coverage standpoint. From a kick coverage standpoint, they have gotten better with Bisaccia. I know they gave up punt returns in the Bears game. They had injuries at their gunner position. That's what they care about. Now, they don't seem to care at all about returns because they won't go out and get a returner, or when they had a Pro Bowl kickoff returner and they don't use them to the playoff game. They don't care about returns. They care about coverage. They care about kicks. They went out and signed a veteran kicker. Now, he was doing okay until he missed the kicks in the playoff game and when he was kicking injured during the season. So they're telling you what they care about with special teams. They don't care about all special teams. They care about certain points of special teams, it seems like. And I think that's what he was kind of revealing. I disagree with that, and I don't like that part of it, but that's just kind of, I think what the reality is like they care to a certain point about the special teams. But like everything else, and everybody's getting worked up about, they think they're good at cornerback. I don't really believe that, but if we get through, if we're in May and they haven't added anybody, or they only add like a 7th round pick at corner, then I'm going to be pissed off. But at this point in February, like, he's not going to come out and be like, yeah, we need corners. We need to go get 2 or 3 guys. Like, he's not going to say that. So like, if you're mad, like, I don't adjust your expectations of what he's trying to do in a press conference. Like, I know there's a lot of mad Packer fans. I get it. But like, at the same time, take a deep breath and understand, like, they're not going to tell you what they want to do because they're competing with 31 other teams for these same players. Like, they can't be that dramatic. They can't give away what their real plan is because it hurts them from player acquisition standpoint. They can't do that.
Yeah, no doubt. You gotta. It's also poker season, right? It's draft season, but it's also poker season. Everything is being analyzed, hyper analyzed, and so these guys are all speaking in code and mum's the word. And I think for me that part of it is understood. It's just some of the things that he says where it's like, oh yeah, man, we've gotten much better at special teams. It's like, some acknowledgement of the catastrophic failures in catastrophic moments, like, would be great. Like, you know what? We have gotten better, but not where we'd like to be. We've got a lot of improvement to do. Like something like that, where it's like, that doesn't mean that anybody's getting fired, but it does mean that the expectations are higher than allowing a blocked field goal in a crucial moment all the freaking time. Like that kind of stuff where it's just like, hey man, whatever the fault is, will you please just demand better? That's all. Give me that. You're not revealing anything with it. Just say, we have made progress, but not good enough. We're gonna be better. Cool. Like, you're not revealing any strategy there. You're not telling me anything. Nobody's fired. Versace's still here. We see that. But the attitude. I want like in certain areas like that where he just sort of flippantly is like, yeah, we're good. We're good. I'm just going to totally deny that things are an issue there. It's like, well, I don't like that. I don't like that because my eyes tell me that there's an issue there. And that's where it's like, I'm torn because part of me says, like, we've talked about before, okay, you've had this issue across multiple coordinators now. Maybe it's not Bisaccia's fault. It's a philosophical thing in the organization. Fine. But Bisaccia is there for some reason, right? He's there to do something, which at the very least is implement a philosophy for the guys that he's coaching, right? Here's the expectations, guys. Like, whoever you have more of a philosophy of we're not going to make mistakes than you do. Because right now it feels like, if you screw up, we'll just pat you on the back and say, it's okay, man. Get them next time. Which that's great in the little leagues, man. It's great even in middle school. Like whenever you're trying to build guys up, these are the pros. You got to kick them in the butt sometimes. And I feel like there's less of that happening. That's where it's like the attitude thing for me. And that permeates through all of it. It's the attitude from LaFleur, the attitude from Gute, the attitude from the assistants. This team needs more of an attitude and more of like a demanding attitude like that, where it's just like, this maybe we've made progress, but not good enough. Gonna get better. Have to get better. Those are just words, but it's an attitude. And so that's to me, if there's anything that still riles me up about that press conference, because you do have to adjust your expectations. It's that. It's just you still hear that attitude of, it's fine. It's like, okay, but I would like some level of dissatisfaction. Give me some level of dissatisfaction that doesn't have to be, counterproductive. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I get it. And I think he did show some dissatisfaction with the way the season ended with all, 5-game losing streak. And he said they got to figure out how to finish games, how to close out games. And he kept going back to that. And I think that shows that he's disgusted with the way the season ended. And they had the recurring issue of not being able to win games they were leading in the second half. I get what you're saying. And I would like to see it more. I don't think you're necessarily going to see it come from the GM like that. And I would also point you to like because you say this all the time and you're right, is that don't necessarily believe what he says, believe what he does, because they will go out and, we're good at cornerback. We really like Keyshawn, or we really like Valentine. And Nate Hobbs, he was hurt. We'll hope he's fine next year. And then they'll go out and they'll add 3 cornerbacks. And you say, see, that's what he really thinks of it. And maybe that's what they do. I would also say to a lot of people that are upset about him talking about specific players, it was a few years ago, Aaron Jones was still on the team, and he was asked about Aaron Jones, and he was almost like insulted. Like, Aaron Jones is going to be on this team. He's a Packer. Like, fully expect him to be on the team.
It was done deal.
And a couple of weeks later, Aaron Jones was released. So, again, he's not going to reveal what he's really going to do. And things can play out differently. So I get the frustration part of it. I do, and I know people like, he didn't come out and like say much about Rashan Gary. I think Rashan Gary's gone, and I think he's going to add to the quarterback.
If you're gonna move him, you gotta say nothing.
Right. Even if you're going to release him, like something can change. Somebody can come in and be like, we'll give you a 7th round pick for him. It's not much, but somebody offered you that, they would take it. Like, why shoot down his value? Why do that? Plans can change. This isn't the time to just come out and say, we're going to cut a guy. Like, they're going to. Most likely, I would be stunned if they don't. But just, believe what their actions are. But I agree. I would like more of a sense of urgency, more of a sense of like, we're going to get this right and we're going to make the changes that are needed. here's what we're thinking sort of thing. And maybe we'll still get that. Maybe that just wasn't the time or the place for it. Who knows? But it's just, and the Bisaccia thing too is it's clear between what Brian says, what Matt says, they really value him. And I think it's more so not as a special teams coach necessarily. It's just more so as like a coach who kind of like sets a tone, and a coach who is like a leader. And if you listen to some of the players that played for him in Las Vegas, Josh Jacobs, Keyshawn Nixon, Hobbs was there. They've all talked like when they've come to Green Bay that Rich was a part of that, and like they were really happy to get back with Bisaccia because of what he meant to them with the Raiders. I'm not saying that they should keep Bisaccia. I'm not defending Bisaccia. I think they should move on. I thought they should have moved on last year and the year before that. But I'm just saying, like, it's not even just he's just their special teams coach. I think they view him almost separate from special teams in a way. Like, yeah, he does special teams too, but we like what he brings, and whatever that is behind the scenes that we don't get to see, that they really take value in. And you get that from Matt, and you get that and Gute, spoke of him last week too. So yeah, obviously at this point, but Rich isn't going anywhere this year. I don't know how much longer he's going to want to coach, so maybe we only got to get through one more year with him. But it's pretty clear they do value him pretty highly within the building there.
Yeah, and even then, I'm like, yeah, Nate Hobbs and Keyshawn Nixon. Like, I have an issue with those guys right now. Like, these are the people. I'm like, wait a second, am I okay with that? Are those the ones that I want coming to Green Bay? And to be fair, Nixon has had his good moments with the Packers. He hasn't been just a dud of an acquisition, especially because they got him for basically nothing, right? I mean, he was a pretty low-level signing when they brought him in. They didn't trade for him, right? They just signed him.
Keyshawn?
Yeah.
He was just a low-level signing, yeah.
Right. So, it's like, and we'll see. You got to give Nate Hobbs a chance next year. Maybe he gets healthy and he's a different player because he's healthy. The other thing that you got to at least give a little bit of room for, because this is the present reality, is new DB coaches, new defense, new DB coaches. So that could be good. There is room for these guys to be better in a new situation. Case in point, Eric Stokes, right? Everybody thought he was a bum. Dude, I thought he was done. I thought, stick a fork in that guy, he stinks. Just based on this film. And again, maybe he was hurt. Maybe he was playing half-hearted. I don't know. But then he goes to the Raiders, and he's a stud again. So, you can get these guys, especially the guys that have the tools, and all these guys have the tools. They got size, they got athleticism. We've seen them do it. We've seen them make great plays. You get them in the right situation here, the right coaches, that could turn these guys around. So that could be another way that Gute's looking at it, saying, I think we're all right. Fair, okay, and maybe there's a value calculation into that. All right for the money that we're paying, something like that you're not going to say out loud. That may be it. It's thinking like, look, these guys are not bad. We've seen them be good. There's a reason we brought them here. Like, maybe this last system wasn't great, and this next system, we've got an idea how to use them. We wouldn't know that yet. He would have had a chance to have those conversations with these new coaches already. So we'll see. But I'm more inclined to think that we're probably going to get what you described, where it's, let's play poker, I'll be vague, and then he drafts three corners. You get a guy in the second, fourth, and sixth, something like that. That's what I'm rooting for. Typically, when he does that, he doesn't do bad. We're going to get a good player, maybe more than one good player out of that approach. He's kind of thrown things at the linebacker position. I know not a lot of people like Quay Walker. I'm probably in the minority. I still like Quay Walker. I don't think he's as bad as people think he is. Cooper, obviously, everybody thinks Cooper's a star. He took maybe a half step back last season, and there was coaching changes involved in that too. But then you look at the rest of the linebacker position, not bad, right? You still got McDuffie is like your stability base there. You got Hopper that's not, we're all kind of looking around like, is Hopper going to get more snaps? Like, you're not really mad about him. So like your linebacker group, he threw a lot of, draft resources at that. And even if you don't like Quay Walker, the rest of the group is not bad. Like, we've seen some pretty stinky linebacker cores in Green Bay over the last 25 years. This one's not bad. It's not maybe the best in the league, but it's not bad. And the reason I like Quay Walker is I see him communicating in that defense more than anybody, and it's not even close. He is out there coordinating everything when that defensive play is called, and you don't know what the value of that is to the coaching staff and to the people in the building. That value may be massive to them, where they're willing to say, look, give me that, and I'll take the fact that he's not producing as much as he could because he's got such a high value on coordinating the defense on the field. We don't know, but that's something that at least I'm looking at it and going, I'll bet that's pretty valuable, because what we do know is when he hasn't played, it's not as good, right? When he last season, when he went out, the defense was noticeably less capable. We didn't see much without Quay this season, did we? Did he play the whole season?
No, he missed a little bit of time, but yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head how many, but he did miss a little bit of time because McDuffie was getting run in there with the starters.
So my point in that would be not to say that you got to keep the guy, but I wouldn't also say that it's, just a terrible decision to keep him. I think that if they pick up that 5th-year option or they give him an extension.
Well, they can't pick up the 5th-year option.
Oh, that already okay, right?
He's a straight free agent now.
So if they bring him back, then you'll get a full negotiation on, you'll pay him what's fair. He'll either agree to it or he won't, and if he doesn't, then he'll probably get paid more somewhere else. And, we know how that goes. But yeah, even so, it's like, I guess I went back to like, he threw a bunch of resources at that. We were talking about the cornerback room. He did it with the safeties, right? He's really consistently been pumping resources into the O-line. We're not hitting on the defensive line as much as you want to, right? Like, getting Gary has sort of fizzled out. You got LVN that people are getting kind of negative on. Although, again, like when he was getting a chance this last season, there was definitely some reason for hope. So, that pick could turn around. But yeah, you want more from it. And so that's where I think that you could get that for this offseason from the cornerback room. He could throw some picks at it, and you might be looking at Nixon as, cornerback 3 in the nickel, and you're like, yeah, I'm okay with this. That's fine. It can happen quick. Life comes at you fast, and so I'm optimistic about Gute's approach. I know he's not perfect. I know we could hindsight nitpick him to death. And again, I shout out to Andy Herman for his Gute versus the consensus board analysis. It was phenomenal. A little hard for a Gute defender to take, but it's just true. It's just information, and you got to face the information. He's not great against the consensus, but when you look at his total team building approach, he's pretty damn good, man. And it's, it's one of those things where it's kind of like quarterback position. You go get rid of your GM. You're not guaranteed to get a better one. They're not just floating around out there. That's a tough position that a lot of guys aren't good at. So that's where I kind of look at it. Like I'm probably just less willing to move on because, consistency and stability seems to have benefited teams and organizations more than the other. And it's not like the guy's a bum, right? Even when he's missed, if you guys want to be real critical, it's like, well, you missed on Gary and, the pass rush. Well, he went and got Micah Parsons, man. He didn't go get Trey Hendrickson. He got Micah Parsons. Like, and everybody was wanting Trey Hendrickson, right? Like, that's what y'all were all cheering for at the beginning of last offseason. Are you kidding me? Micah Parsons 100 times out of 100 over Trey Hendrickson. And so you got to give the guy his due. I certainly was frustrated with some of the things out of the press conference, no doubt about it. And it's more to do with attitude for me. But he's still the Packers' best shot at winning a Super Bowl over the next 3 to 5 years at GM. No doubt in my mind about that. If you get rid of your GM, I think you're hitting the reset button. And we just don't need to go through that right now.
No, we don't. But
so,
what we can go through right now, you want to go through their list of free agents and see who's going to be back and who's not?
Yeah. So let's
Want
see
me,
here. We just kind of talked through Rashan Gary. Uh,
you want me to read them off for you? We can go through
yes,
it
sir.
and go.
Let's start with the restricted, the ones that are kind of on the edge there.
Sure. So restricted ones, and they all get the restricted tenders, and there's different levels as far as draft pick compensation and where you got to tender them. And a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes when these guys are restricted, that tender number is too high. You can like negotiate a lower number to bring them back, and that's probably what they're going to do with some of these guys. But do have a decent list of restricted guys. So Chris Brooks, I think he'll be back at least, on the roster. Whether he's one of the three backs next year, we'll see how it plays out through training camp. But I certainly think they're bringing him back one way or another for the offseason. Agree?
Oh yeah, no, Chris
Okay.
Brooks is a must-have, and his value is in his pass block or pass
Yeah.
blocking. I mean, that is super valuable in the NFL, and that dude's good
Yeah.
at it.
He's a nice role player. Absolutely. Darian Kennard, who they gave up a 6th-round pick for to get and played that extra 6 offensive lineman. Plus, he was, at times getting some actual offensive line snaps, but he played as the 6th tight end after Tucker Kraft went down. Think they bring him back as well? I do.
I think you got to bring him back. He was your best fill-in guy. He was
You
able to
need
step
depth.
in there. They didn't miss a beat when he was in there. He wasn't a noticeable liability. You still need depth. Yeah, you don't have certainty at positions enough to let him go. And they gave up capital for him. So I think that's
Right.
one of those where they'll
That's-
probably consider that a little harder.
And he's still young enough, even though he's on his 3rd team. He's still young enough where age wouldn't be a factor in this. So yeah, I think they should bring him back just for depth purposes. Emmanuel Wilson, another running back. I don't. Again,
I would love to see him back, but I wonder how much they'll make it a choice between Brooks and Wilson.
that's true, but like they don't know. Marshawn Lloyd is just. We
he's
don't
not
know
in the
if
equation
he's
for me
ever
right
gonna come
now.
back, right? So then, I mean, they're definitely at some point, I think, going to add it back. I mean, maybe they take one in the draft. Maybe I don't see him spending real money on a running back, but I think they bring someone in, a draft pick or a cheap street free agent. Wilson, I think, does a decent job for them at times.
Honestly, he might get tendered by another team. He might. That might be a situation where they get compensation for him.
Well, they wouldn't because he was undrafted. Unless they give him, because you can give him tenders. If you give him a second-round tender,
that's what I mean. They may see the value on him because he showed some starting running back value there at the end of the season. There might be some other teams watching him.
You never know. I think they at least bring him back, and he's in competition with Brooks, and then whoever else they bring in. But yeah, unless
I don't know. I'm going to say I don't know on Emmanuel Wilson. I would love to see him come back, but I'm not sure. He's been there for a while. I could see them saying, let's, either let him go or get some compensation for him, and then, get younger, keep that turnstile moving at the bottom of the running back depth chart.
Okay. So, and I'll just run through the rest of these kind of as a group because I don't think there's any that are, big debates or big names. Aaron Mosby, who was mostly pretty much only a special teams player, but he's a defensive end. Josh Wiley, who came up from the practice squad after Kraft got hurt. Brenton Cox, Zane Anderson, and then Jonathan Ford, who they brought back right at the end of the regular season to literally play the last 2 games at defensive tackle. So, like, from that group, I mean, I think Zane Anderson and Mosby, because they're special teams guys, bring him back. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. Doesn't mean they're on the final 53 going into the regular season, but they're experienced special teams guys who they like for those purposes. And Zane Anderson, they've at times had him fill in at safety too. Wiley, I would be fine if they brought him back. I thought he actually looked all right in the limited playing time he got. Brenton Cox, I mean, he's still young enough, but I mean, to me, he's pretty far down the depth chart now. Like, he's obviously behind Van Ness. He's behind Sorrell, who's a 4th-round pick. Maybe even Oliver jumps him. I don't know yet because Oliver played 1 game. If they bring anybody else in, or they keep Kingsley and Ibarra, who we'll get to in a second, you kind of run out of spots for Cox, and he doesn't play special teams. So I think that's one that maybe they let him walk. And then Jonathan Ford.
That's similar to me. It's similar to the running backs where you might put yourself in a position where it's like either bring back Enagbare or bring back Cox. Because I think they're both kind of in that bubble rusher position where both of them, they offer good depth for the pass rush position for sure. But whoever's got the more value in total, I think, is going to end up maybe getting a chance to stay.
And then I guess we can start there with unrestricted free agents, Enagbare, and that's, if it was me, I would bring him back. I think he makes a play or two just about every game, that pops.
He does. He was more effective than Gary in the second half of the season, and it's not
exactly
close.
what I was going to say. It wasn't even close. And I guess it depends on the money with him because he's not a starter, and I don't think he should be on another team, but some other team may see him as a starter. And he's an edge rusher, and those guys get paid. I don't know what his value is around the league, but to be like your third or fourth edge rusher off the bench after, on the depth chart, that's not bad. I think he makes enough plays. I would definitely bring him back unless the money gets crazy, which, I wouldn't pay him starter level money because I just don't think he's that. But if he's your number 3 guy or 4 guy even, he's a nice player for you. So I'm in on Enagbare if the money's right.
What? Chris, where are you getting this information? 55's market value over 10 mil?
Then I would walk away. But I don't know. I don't know where you
I don't know about that. Maybe that salary cap is just getting too high. I don't know.
Yeah,
10 mil seems like a lot. I was going to say, if you can get him for 7, that probably is a good deal. Like a 2-3 year deal for 7 a year.
Yeah. I would bring him back, but if the money gets crazy like that, no. So Rasheed Walker, I don't
he's
think.
Gone.
Yeah, he's gonna get paid more than you expect, and he shouldn't, but he will because he's a left tackle, and somebody's gonna pay him for that.
And he's not a bad left tackle, right?
No, he's not bad.
Being a good left tackle in this league is going to get you overpaid if you hit the market. So, yeah, he'll get overpaid, and I think the Packers know that, and that's why I don't think it'll just be one of those situations where they both know. Like, I'm going to go get paid. You're not going to pay me this. And thanks a lot.
Like, he didn't have a good year for them, and he had a really tough playoff game. I thought he stunk in that game against the Bears. So I'm ready to move on. They're getting nice draft pick compensation. They got Jordan Morgan there who can hopefully replace him. So, there's no way he's coming back. He's kind of a league average tackle, but even a league average tackle on the free agent market's going to get paid. He's going to get paid.
Yep.
Romeo Doubs.
Yeah, the chat's on this one. I hear you guys. We got our buddy Daryl out here who says Doubs deserves to be re-signed. He was a reliable target on the field. It's hard to argue that.
I mean, I don't think he's reliable every week. I think he's inconsistent. Like, there's some weeks or stretches where he'll show up and he'll be key, getting the key third down catches or the key touchdown catches, and then you won't do anything for 4 weeks. And you're like, where's Doubs?
Yeah.
I'd like him as like a, rotational receiver. I just think he's going to get paid more money on the open market than what the Packers can afford to keep him. Like, it might be one of those where the Packers say, hey, this is our number. And if you beat it, you beat it. Thanks for 4 years here. If you don't, let us know. We'll bring you back at that number, sort of thing.
Holy crap. Hang on a second. Goodness. We're talking about
there's
numbers here.
Yeah,
he's
kidding
not. Me?
Chris, I'm not saying you're wrong what you're reading, but there's no way he's going to make that.
24
million. There's no
for
way
Doubs? Dude, no way. Good for him if he gets that. Ain't like the Packers aren't paying that. There's no way that's happening. I mean, God, we were talking. I think somebody else had 15 mil in the chat. I was like, you aren't paying 15, dude. 24?
He might get 15, but
the Packers aren't going to pay 15.
And Chris, I believe you, Chris, that it says that, but I just don't believe that somebody's going to pay that. I think they need to get their projections better.
Oh, I believe somebody will pay. I don't think the Packers will come close to that.
No, and that's why I think he'll leave, and that's okay, because they don't have the cap space to pay him, and I just don't think he's a guy that you pay big money to anyway. He's a nice receiver, but he's not special, and he is what he is. And if you could get him at a certain cheap price, fine. But I wouldn't give him
24,
any more.
man.
No, 15's a lot. I wouldn't give him anywhere near that because you got to find Golden's got to have a bigger role, and they're going to want to extend Watson probably again. So
there you have it, Matthew Tan. There's your answer. Let's say Doubs leaves. Is there a great receiver out there to fill his spot? Yes, sir. In the locker room already. You got Golden, you got Watson, you got Reed, you got Wicks. They're there. We got them. So we're all right. And they're pretty good at finding these guys. There's no certainties they won't draft another one in this draft. Now, probably not day 2, maybe day 3, but yeah, I don't think, if Dobbs leaving, I don't think that's one of those where it's like, well, him leaving, you really got to fill this hole. They got the guys there. There's a lot of talent in that room, and Dobbs had said that on Radio Row this week. Before the Super Bowl, he was saying he would love to be in Green Bay, but he understands that there's a lot of guys in that room. It's a business, and if you're really talking about, and guys, I believe Spot Track is usually pretty good. I'm again not doubting what you're saying, but like if this really is true, if Dobbs is going to go out and get $24 million a year, yeah, there's just no reality where he's a Packer. Like the Packers aren't getting close to that right now.
No,
like, it's
good
just
for him. Good for him.
Yeah,
but
for sure,
no.
good for him.
No.
But yeah, I just don't see that happening.
They might be able. If he gets $24 million, they're going to have a chance to sign him again in a year or two when he gets cut from that contract. To be honest, because some team's going to pay him that and realize he ain't worth $24 million. And I like Dobbs; he's fine, but wow, that's a huge number. The next one, Sean Ryan, and I think he made an interesting case after Elton Jenkins went down and Ryan got to take over at center. I still think the Packers will probably move on just because it seemed like they wanted to replace him for the last couple of years with Jordan Morgan at right guard and, didn't really want to give him a starting spot until they had to because of Jenkins' injury. He did play okay. I don't think he played great, but I thought he actually played better than Elton Jenkins was playing at center. And again, I guess maybe this is a money deal too. Like, I don't know what his value is around the league, how teams view him. If he's getting starter money somewhere else, it's probably going to be what the Packers are going to give him. But maybe teams around the league kind of view him as like a fringe starter, depth, interior line depth sort of guy. I don't know. But I could see them possibly bringing him back and letting him be the starting center. I just think he would have some kind of competition there, maybe a rookie or draft pick. So I think there's a chance with Ryan, but I think ultimately he ends up going somewhere else.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see them be able to get him on like a 2 or 3 year deal that's fair for all involved. Give him like a nice signing bonus that doesn't hurt you on the cap, but then get some friendly cap numbers. And yeah, have that, like I said, 2 to 3 year window where you've got some other younger guys that are going to come in and eventually be able to slide in. I don't know the value that they have on him as far as a center goes, but when you listen to him, they constantly preach versatility, the front office, that is, and he's got it, man. He can rotate at all those, the guard and the center position, all the interior positions, and not be a huge liability. Again, we're kind of talking like he's not the best, he's not the worst. You could definitely do worse than having that guy out there for yourself. And I think there's a case to be made that he's gotten better each year. Which that's something to also pay attention to. The Packers might see that and value that too. But yeah, it really depends on what they think their options are, because, they're not going to ignore the O-line. That's for sure. So do you see, other free agents as being a realistic target? I know Tyler Lindenbaum is one that everybody wants to talk about. Like, that's one of those where it's like, I think it's going to take a lot more than what you think to make that happen.
Oh yeah.
I'd be very surprised if they actually made that happen. And it would speak volumes about what they think about the center position, right? Like at that point, it's like, okay, Ryan, not good enough.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's where they're at, considering you do need to get some guys extended. You do need to handle the salary cap a little bit. So you can't just go out and flippantly spend here. You got to have some thought to it. To spread those resources out. So I don't think that that's what we're looking at. And again, it depends on what they think is going to be their options. Like, is there a trade that they can make, or are you looking at draft picks? If you're looking at draft picks, I think that will be important for them to get either Ryan or Jenkins extended, one of the two, because they want that veteran presence. That's one thing that I pointed out. The pattern that Gute has, if he's going to go put rookie assets in a spot, he's going to have a veteran presence there. And he's done in the past where he's gone off and signed a veteran at the position, like a Xavier McKinney before he goes and loads up on safety draft picks, or he re-signs somebody like a Kenny Clark because before he goes and makes a bunch of D-line draft picks, stuff like that. So if they see themselves loading up on interior O-line in this draft without adding from the free agent class, then one of those guys has to get re-signed. That's like a core part of their strategy to do that. It would be very uncharacteristic, I think, to let both Ryan and Jenkins go and then load up on draft picks as their backfill, right? So you got Banks there. I get it. That's just not enough. Not good enough, not enough.
No.
You're talking about 3 different positions. You need more than the guy who was not good this last year and has only been with the team for 1 year. I do think you would have one of those guys back.
Yeah, and I don't think it's Elton Jenkins. Like, I think they're absolutely gonna
I would
him.
think that's less likely.
So I would bring Ryan back if the money was right, if it made sense, and I think they probably would too. I just don't know if it's going to be what they want it to be. Like, I think again they're going to have a number and be like, this is what we're willing to spend for him. If it gets past that, they're not going to get into a bidding war for him, sort of thing. But I don't want to weaken the offensive line, and even if right, like I don't think he's going to be a great center as a starting center. I think he'd be okay, but even if he wasn't your starting center, he gives you depth at center and guard, and you need that depth over a 17-game season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't want to weaken your line without knowing, like, can we get a center in the draft, and is that center going to be ready to go? Plus, we got Belton, who's only going to go into his second year. We got Banks, who's coming off the year where he was injured and he underperformed. Like, I'd want better depth there, so I would bring Ryan back, but it's all gonna depend on the number for the Packers. So we'll see. Then we got Quay Walker. I know you made your feelings known about Quay. For me, I think they should move on just because I think he's going to get paid. I've seen it projected 10 million or 12 million. I've seen it 15 million for Quay Walker. If it's 15, it's no brainer you let him leave because you can spend that money better elsewhere.
I think they'd pay 10 to 12.
Maybe. I don't think they might. It's interesting because Gute came out last summer during training camp and said that they wanted them back and they were working on it. It seemed like things were headed that way for a contract extension, and then it never got done. And one of the reporters at the end of the locker clean-out day at the end of the season asked him about it. And Quay was basically like, "Yeah, we're not talking," sort of thing. Like, there's nothing going. Now that can change, and who knows? Contract can get done, but I think it's interesting that like Gute made it a point to say that they wanted him here and that they were working on it, and it didn't get done. So it makes me think that his number's a lot higher than what they want to pay him. I think if it's near what they want to pay him, that they would do it. I think he's going to get more on the open market, and I would be okay. Like, I don't think he's terrible, like some Packers fans do, but I don't think he's that good either. I don't want McDuffie being the every down middle linebacker. That scares me. I just think you could allocate that money that you would pay Quay Walker on other positions, maybe another linebacker, or other positions, and just improve your team elsewhere. I think he's okay, but he's got major deficiencies, both against the run and in pass coverage too. So I'm ready to move on.
Something else to consider with him, and again, because he's a free agent, right? So he's got to want to come back. And I don't,
right.
We see Doubs, he's out on Radio Row going, "I want to be a Packer, man." And you got Quay, like, "Hey man, what with your contract?" Okay, sounds good. His coaches just went to Miami.
It's true. It wouldn't surprise me if that's where he ends up.
I think he really had. I think he liked Halfley, but it seems like Coach Duggan, has made a lot of impression. Halfley made him a defensive coordinator for a reason. So I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to go to Miami. He's a Georgia guy, wants to go back down south. Makes sense. You got to want to come back. You can't just offer a guy a contract that makes sense and he just automatically comes back. He may not want to. He may not want to learn a new defense. He may rather go play in the defense he's been playing in. So that's something to consider as well with Quay. And, kind of back to Gute's model of if I'm going to stack a place with, a position with rookie assets, then I need a veteran there. Well, you got veterans all through the linebacker position. So you don't necessarily need Quay Walker there to be your veteran presence at the linebacker position. You got Cooper there. You got McDuffie there. You got Hopper there. There's talent at the linebacker position in this draft, and it's going to be there in the day 2, day 3 range. So there's guys that absolutely could be added. So yeah, it could just be one of those situations where it's like, yep, time's up, and these two are going to go separate ways. It could be done for Quay Walker. We're going to find out.
I think you could find a linebacker that can do similar things to Quay Walker for a lot less money than he's going to get paid.
Yeah. That's part of the equation for sure. So, let's round out this list.
I'll run through it real quick. So we got John Fitzpatrick, Malik Willis, Christian Welch, Nick Neiman. Obviously, Malik Willis is the big name. Love what he did. Good luck wherever you go. He's going to get paid somewhere, and to be a bridge starter or no doubt about it, starter. Who knows?
Starter, yeah.
Whatever it is. Thank you, Malik. You did a great job. Fitzpatrick is coming off the torn Achilles. He's a number 3 tight end. Maybe down the line they bring him back when he's healthy. And then Welch and Neiman, who are linebackers, but they're really just special teams guys. They did pick up Neiman at the end of training camp last year off waivers. They liked him enough. I think he would be one that they would bring back for special teams. Cool. I guess, he was a good special teams player, and then he got hurt, missed a lot of time, and came back for the playoff game. So, yeah, I think Neiman would be back, and the other ones, Welch, Willis, Fitzpatrick, are probably gone.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Obviously, Willis, there's just no scenario where he comes back. You can't afford him. Somebody's going to pay him. We all saw what happened to Matt Flynn. Good for him, man. I hope Willis makes more money than Matt Flynn. And I hope he actually plays more football than Matt Flynn, too. Neiman makes the most sense. Maybe Welch, depending on the special teams value and priority, but Neiman, they seem to be very, especially Bisaccia was kind of outspoken about Neiman's value to special teams. So if that's going to be a unit that they attempt to improve, I would imagine you want to bring a guy back that the special teams coordinator likes. So, yeah, we'll see how they do this. Our buddy Ken Ingalls, he's a great follow on X. He has listened to the pod at least once, so that's pretty cool. He might be floating around in the comments, but he's been a great one to follow for the Packers salary cap updates and kind of how everything breaks down and what they can and can't do. So follow him, check him out. He can kind of he'll walk us through the offseason on where they're at. Each move, what's the impact of the salary cap, and he's been pretty clear they can make moves if they want, right? They're not just sitting here hands tied. I think if they want a guy, they're going to be able to get a guy. But you're not going to get in a bidding war, and I don't think they intend to win a bidding war. I think what it'll be is, if there is a guy out there that they want to go get, they'll make that play and they'll make room for it, and it'll happen. Much like the Micah Parsons move. I don't think it'll be of that magnitude, right? I don't think you're going to get any 2 first-round pick trades happening again for quite some time in Green Bay. But, again, they ID the guy, they'll go get the guy, and they can make their salary cap adjust. So, I think that's a good thing, right? It's good to know that they have the flexibility to do what they want, so you don't feel like you're forced into doing some things you have to do just because you can't afford to do what you want to do. And knowing that, it'll be interesting to see who stays and who goes. We kind of went through the list there. There's some significant names on that list. Some guys you probably don't want to walk out of the building that are going to, and you just got to adapt and hope that they can backfill. But that's the season we're in.
And I think some of the guys that they are going to let leave, they already have those guys to replace him, which is the key. Rasheed Walker leaves, it's Morgan. Now, we don't know if Morgan can hold up and play left tackle all year. I get that. But they at least have the option there. Like, there's been years past, different regimes with the Packers, where they've let free agents leave, and you look at the depth chart, and you're like, okay, who's going to play left tackle? They don't have anybody on the roster that can play left tackle. Well, they do. We don't know. True, we don't know about Morgan, but they drafted him there for a reason. So he's there. Malik Golden's there to replace Romeo Doubs. Again, can he be as good as Doubs? We don't know. They have a guy ready to step in and fill in for that. So there are positions they're going to lose guys. They already have their replacements on the roster. That's a good sign. But obviously, yeah, there are holes to fill. They're going to acquire guys. I don't think it's going to be top of the market signings or anything like that. But they do have the ability to go out there and get some players, and they will. So, like, don't panic about who they're losing and roster holes like that quite yet, because they will start filling them in.
Yeah. No, and Gute we trust, guys. 'Tis the season. Interesting comment here from our friend Bill in the comments. The narrative has been that a Gannon D has no need for McDuffie. That is, I believe. Now that's an interesting thought. I didn't consider that. That's the kind of stuff. And to counter that point, Bill, the other thing is that Gannon doesn't have a scheme. He doesn't have a system. He just builds whatever he's got, with players. Yeah. So I don't know how much that means anything now that I'm thinking through it, because you got McDuffie. And the thing about McDuffie is he's been stable, he's been consistent, and he's been a significant contributor on special teams. To your point, Tim, if you're going to go off and get rid of a guy like that, I sure hope you have another one, and maybe more than one, because special teams isn't just one guy. And neither is linebacker. So maybe defenses of the past haven't, but I could see Gannon finding a use for a guy like McDuffie when he's as stable as he is, and he can be sort of a coach on the field, because he is like the old head on the defense at this point. That one that'd be one where it's like, you're gonna move on from him. I sure hope you got somebody that can be what he is. So I don't know, but you also might find that them Dolphins start trying to make trades for certain players. So we'll see.
Could be.
But
that'd be interesting. There's obviously been a pipeline in Miami with the GM and several coaches. So they might want some guys that are on the Packers roster too. Yeah.
They know how much the Packers value their picks. I mean, John Eric Sullivan, right? John Eric Sullivan is down there, very intimately familiar with how much the Packers value their picks. So, yeah, you come along with some pick offers for some players. That wouldn't surprise me at all. We'll see. That's what the offseason is fun for. As we're in team building season now, it is it's time to build the 61st Super Bowl champion. We didn't get to build the 60th. It's okay. We're going to build the 61st. But yeah, the next events on the horizon here, we got the scouting combine coming up, and then some pro days will happen. We'll get some OTAs going on. I think we'll get some free agency period. We got all sorts of things coming up in the next 6 weeks ish, before we even start thinking about when the draft is. So it's gonna be good. We're gonna do, like I said, like we do every draft season, we're gonna do the flyby on each position. Not necessarily to rank the position, but to discuss who the Packers might be most interested in and might make most sense for them, which is not always the same. So if you are some other non-Packer fan looking to listen to our in-depth draft knowledge that we have, you're going to get a Packers bias, so deal with it. Other than that, you're going to learn some things about some players you probably don't know. So come along the ride with us. We'll get that started next week, right? I mean, well, did we decide we shouldn't do that before the combine?
Yeah, I think that was our decision. The combine's a couple weeks away, so I guess.
And it does provide a filter. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because we need those measurement numbers, because we know how the Packers live their thresholds.
Yeah. So maybe we'll do like a combine preview. Do a little bit of a flyover of the draft class, strengths, weaknesses of positions, not necessarily getting into the individual guys. We can do a little bit of a preview of the draft class next week and the combine. Who are the guys that stand to make the most for running a fast 40 or jumping a high vertical or all of the above? Nick Eman-Wari was one of the winners of the scouting combine last year, now Super Bowl champion safety, Seattle Seahawks.
Played a big role in their defense. Yep.
Sometimes that dude matters, and I think the NFL is guilty of overthinking themselves a little bit. You let a DK Metcalf slip into the second round or a Nick Eman-Wari slip into the second round. If you got a freak athlete, maybe you got to go after him. I don't know. Something to those interviews too, probably. But anyway, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up, guys. We're gonna make sure you know everybody in the draft class that you need to know. So on draft day, nobody's a stranger. You're watching day 1, day 2, day 3, and you know all the names still. That's the goal, and you're rooting for all of them. But here we are. We're gonna do this a week at a time. We love you guys hanging out with us. Always, you guys getting active in the chat, bringing in some great information. Hitting us with some average salary per year stuff going on from Spot Track. Please appreciate you guys. If y'all had fun with us in this episode, please spike that like button for us. Jump on over to YouTube if you're not already there. Type in Packers Talk Network. Network's important. It'll get you where you're going. And hit that subscribe button on our Packers Talk Network channel. We really would appreciate that. It helps us a lot. Doesn't take much for your part. And, we're not even going to spam you or anything like that. I'm not going to ask you to buy anything. At least not yet. I know that's the big thing on podcasts these days. They ask you to buy their own merch. We're not even doing that. We just want you guys to come hang out. Have some fun in the chat. Have some fun in the comments. Talk some pack. And, like I said, we're building the 61st Super Bowl champion. So it's going to take a whole offseason to do that. And we wanted you guys to do it with us. So come on back next week, Packers fans. And as always, go Pack.